Hello everyone, how's it going? In this video, we're going to analyze Alibaba from the Spawner's framework perspective. This is something which was introduced by Monish Babrai, where he explained how the Spawner's framework could help us identify 10x and 100 bagger companies. In this video, we're going to cover the brutal capitalism concept. Second, we will go over the Spawner's framework and how it applies to Alibaba. Number 3, the big red flag, which is in the same concept of spawners and how it applies to Alibaba. Number 1, the brutal capitalism. These are the Fortune 500 companies back from 1955. So it's almost more than 50 years, about 60 years old. And out of these 500 companies, only 60 or 61 remain active. All the other companies are gone. Imagine the top 500 companies and only 60 remain, which is not even close to 15-20% of the companies. And this was something back in 2015. And we don't know what's the number right now in 2021. It might be much less. So about 61 companies only remain. That tells you how brutal capitalism is. The companies that we think today are most active and most thriving may or may not be there in the next 50 or 100 years. So that's the capitalism concept. So how do we protect ourselves and our investments from these issues? Monish Babrai explained the concept of spawners in his recent videos. And he explained that how capitalism is extremely brutal and almost all businesses will mature and die at some point. But spawning is the only way that helps the company stay alive. So he explained how the companies go outside their boundary, outside their core business point, and try to analyze and grow new companies within the main mothership. He explained there are 5 types of spawners. Number 1 is adjacent spawners. These are companies who try to establish businesses within that same sector that they are working. Number 2 is embryonic spawners. This is where companies buy a new or very nascent company and then grow it into a conglomerate. Like, for example, Google bought YouTube when it was in its nascent stage. Now it has grown up. Facebook similarly bought Instagram and WhatsApp. Now it's growing it up. Next is cloner spawners. These are companies who simply copy what is working out there and then use it. Example, Microsoft simply copied or Explorer, Surface, Azure, and Teams. They copied it. They're very good in cloning spawners. Next is non-adjacent spawners. Non-adjacent spawners are companies that establish companies outside of their domain. They have nothing to do with it. For example, he gave BYD, which is a company who works into electric vehicles, but back in the 2020 COVID era, they started making face masks, which is completely outside their core competency, but they still went out. And that's non-adjacent spawners. Then comes the apex spawners. And these are spawners that do everything. All the 4 aspects of spawning are covered by them. Now let's go back to this video. And he explains how Alibaba sits in that competence of apex spawners. I'll play this quick video for you.
Alibaba, you guys are very familiar with, Alipay with the adjacent spawning. And they've done a number of things on the embryonic front, cloners, and then even the non-adjacent with the Alibaba Cloud and AliTrip. Berkshire.
So he goes over a couple of apex spawners in this video. And you saw how he compared Alibaba also in that apex spawner group. And let's go into Alibaba's timeline. This is the history and milestone on Alibaba's website. And you can see that how they started back in 1999. And ever since they have been doing different types of developments. Now let's go into 2001. You will see how they have been establishing new milestones and starting new companies. Now let's look into this quick thing. They started out with this marketplace, Taobao Marketplace. This was back in 2003. So they started a new company called Taobao Marketplace. Then in 2004, you can see they're again doing new companies like Ali Guang. This was a personal computer-based instant messaging system. They also started Alipay in that same year. Then look into 2005. There was not much going on in this year. Then 2006, they started out Ali Mama, which was a monetization platform. Then you had 2008 Taobao Mall's launch, or Tmall. Then you have the Alibaba Cloud, which was started back in 2009. 2010, then they're introducing Juaswan, and then consumer marketplace AliExpress was launched. So you get the picture that every year they were not sitting quiet. They were not just working on their main business, but also spinning off new companies and new businesses for themselves. And this has been going on for years and years of Alibaba's core experience. And you can see how easily Alibaba sits in that spawner's framework. But there's a big red flag which Monish Pobrai points out in that same video with the Peking University. This was back in December 3, 2021 and uploaded on his web channel on February 14. So let me play that quick part. And he shows that, explains that red flag, and we'll see how that applies to Alibaba.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're absolutely right that the spawning DNA is very critical. I think when I look at the more I have invested in or accidentally invested in, they are founder led. So the founder has the DNA, and the founder still is young or relatively young and still running with the same DNA. And yes, it becomes that then you have to study that. You have to make sure that you have enough data that can this next generation run things. In some cases, the next generation can be better than the previous generation. So for example, in India, one of the largest companies is Reliance Industries, and the second generation is running it, and the second generation is better than the founder. Son is better than the father. And so in that, but it would have taken some time to understand that's the case. And I did not. So I think yeah, you have to, if there's a transition that has taken place to professional management and the spawning took place while there was a founder, it's a red flag. You have to have enough data on the professional manager, whether they understand that. And one of the things we don't know, we'll have to see that when a business like Amazon transitions to the next leader, has the spawning DNA deeply entrenched into the business so much that the next leader has that hardwired and ready to go. We'll have to see if that is actually the case. I did not.
He basically goes over the concept of how, if the spawning DNA was, especially in the founder-led company, whether or not it's going to be transitioned into the second person who's going to take over. And that's something which Alibaba is facing. You see, back in 2019, Jack Ma, who was the founder, who basically ran all that spawning network that we saw, he stepped down as the CEO of Alibaba. And then Daniel Zhang, he took up. And Daniel Zhang is currently running Alibaba. And that's the issue, where companies are not run by founders, but they're run by agents. This is something which Chris Meyer also covered in his video or in his book of 100 Baggers, where he explained most of these 100 baggers were companies that were led by founders, because founders, when they are running the company, they are only concerned about the company. They don't bother about anything else, their reputation and nothing matters except for the company. The company is like a baby for them. Whereas an agent, when an agent runs the company, he's more concerned about his own career, his own reputation in the market, his own value in the market. Whereas, founder has more other different agenda, nothing but the company. So that's the issue that you face normally when you have a founder step down and an agent running the company. And that's surrounding Alibaba. And you can see this is the year of 2019, where Alibaba was still running and going through different types of developments. They're talking about the changes that they made in Alibaba Cloud, Alibaba Pictures, the Alibaba Economic Technology Philanthropy Program. You have different types of strategic collaboration that they were doing, different other activities that Alibaba was doing. And then September, you can see that Daniel Zhang succeeded Jack Ma as the chairman of the board of group of Alibaba. And Daniel Zhang comes from a financial background. He does not come from an entrepreneurial background like Jack Ma. And you can see in the year of 2020, there were some developments that happened. And then the year of 2021, so far, not so much in terms of development from the spawning perspective. But again, like you said, it's a very nascent aspect. He just took over, and how things are going to be running, we don't know. So we need a few timeline in order to understand where this is going. But this is also a little bit different. So he explained in that video about the Indian company called Reliance and how the second generation is running the company much better than the first generation. So Mukesh Ambani, who's the son of the founder, he is now the second generation running the company, and he's competing with companies like Amazon and Walmart in India. Then you have Satya Nadella from Microsoft, how he is running the company, and he took Microsoft to a much better height than what Bill Gates was running. So the rise of Satya Nadella, the CEO who totally turned Microsoft around in 5 years and made it more valuable than Apple. The same thing is happening with Sundar Pichai, who was awarded $281 million in compensation last year for Google, and he is now running Alphabet, succeeding the other founders. So you can see that there are also instances where the agents are running the companies much better than the founders. But the contrast is also true. Well, this is something which only time can understand and give us a better perspective, but found it interesting and I wanted to share with you. With that, take care, stay safe, bye-bye.